Welcome to another episode of Hidden Variables, the podcast where we explore interesting people from all walks of life, sharing fascinating stories, and who are making a positive impact on our world. Today's guest really needs no introduction at all, unless you spent the last 20 years in the Australian outback or the depths of the Siberian taiga, maybe. We're so honored to have the great radio, TV, and movie host, Jimmy Church, with us to talk about the mysteries of our world, the universe, and consciousness, probably with a little conspiracy theory thrown in for some extra spice. Jimmy Church is a radio, film, and television host for the Game Changer Network. Jimmy's the host of Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and syndicated on KGACR, iHeartRadio, TSL, TuneIn, and Spreaker. From 2014 to 2020, he was a fill-in host on Coast to Coast AM with Premier Networks and iHeartRadio. His show, Into the Vortex, is now in its third season on Gaia TV. Jimmy is the producer and co-star of the 2021 feature film, The Observers, and the narrator of the 2021 hit film, Extraordinary, The Revelations. He is also the star of the 2022 Forbidden Knowledge film, The Black Knight Satellite Beyond the Signal, which is one of my favorites. He co-starred on History Channel's Hangar 1, The UFO Files, Time Beings, and is host of The Unexplained and Breaking Mysterious. He also has appeared on Expedition X on Travel Channel and featured in the documentary UFO Cover-Ups, Secrets Revealed. Fade to Black is a late-night, long-form conversation talk show with a style that is a throwback to the old days of overnight AM radio with hosts like Long John Nebel. Open conversation with only the very best and brightest guests covering UFOs, ghosts, lost civilizations, secret governments, agendas, time travel, and alternate realities. Fade to Black reaches out to the next generations with a fresh take on the world around us. Let's please extend a warm welcome to the very great Jimmy Church. So welcome, Jimmy. Thank you so much for taking time out to be on this show. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Debs. Listening to that, and it's great to be here, you forget half of what you've done. I'm listening to that. Yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. And it's an honor and a privilege and a weird feeling to be able to have those thoughts. Mm-hmm. Right. It really is. It's crazy. It's crazy. So it's so great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And one of the things, before I hand it back to you, because I'm a show host, I'll take this thing over in a second, is, and I say that in complete jest, by the way, but I have been doing this for so long now, and with a team of producers and people around me. And of course, I do a lot of the interfacing and booking of the shows myself because of the relationships that I've built out there.
Sure.
And whenever I get an invitation to go out and do it, not only, it's very rarely that I say no. If it's out of my wheelhouse, and it's sure, a zone that I don't necessarily feel like I'm an expert in, or I can contribute to it, and they just want to bring me in because of my name or something like that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll turn that stuff down. But for the most part, I love being on the other side of the mic, right? And being able to talk, because I'm just somebody that's asking questions. And here's the interesting thing. All right. And I promise I'll hand it back over to you. But here's the interesting thing is I have done now over 3,000 interviews.
Unreal.
Okay. Yeah. over 2,100 fade to blacks. I don't know how many hundreds of coast to coast or TV shows or films and the conferences and the things that where I'm always out there learning. And what it has turned into is you can equate it to like going to college for 12 years.
Yeah.
12 years of accumulating knowledge and having the best researchers and the best authors and the best filmmakers, the best professors that you can have, the best scientists. And I'm out there learning and pulling stuff out of their brains, right? So I've been going to school now. If I haven't learned anything in 12 years of college, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So now now I am the person that I used to interview. Now I'm one of the people that is sitting on a pile of knowledge that needs to be shared. It's crazy, and I love it. And that was my goal from the beginning, as a host, was to present myself, not to emulate somebody from the past or some radio voice or some talking head from TV. No, but was to come across as truthfully as possible as somebody that was just on a journey trying to get questions answered.
Yeah.
And if I could do that, then I would resonate with the audience. And I'm not pretending to be some expert. No, I am actually somebody that's trying to figure this stuff out. And we all are.
You're a seeker, just like I am. This is why I do what I do. In my work, in my everyday life, with the clients I'm working with, whether it's quantum hypnotherapy or doing channeling or any of that stuff, counseling, I learn so much more from those people than they will ever learn from me. And in fact, I've been a yoga teacher for over 50 years. And I've always ended my classes by saying, thank you for being my great teachers, because no matter how much you think you know, you learn something from those people in the course of teaching that class. So I'm right there with you. And I love having you here on the other side of the microphone, if you will, because now it's time for you. This is kind of a new phase that I see you in. It's time for you to start sharing the information that you have accumulated, because it's something new. It's a new part of the hologram, right? You have accumulated from all of these great people, these beautiful thought leaders. And now you have absorbed it, tried to integrate it, and you can speak it in a different way than perhaps they have. And what you speak is going to reach the people that it needs to reach that couldn't be reached any other way. And I think that's what your secret sauce is. That's your superpower.
It is kind of a superpower. One that you don't know that you have, right? That gets revealed to you. It's kind of like Star Wars in a way. But I just did a few months ago. A friend of mine, there were a couple actually, but big podcast, and on a different kind of subject. Everything's related and connected. So, but they asked me to, come down and do this. It's 3 hours and beautiful studio. And I said, okay. And they said, no agenda. Just do what you do. Just come in and sit in the chair. I said, okay. All right. And 3 hours later, I didn't even realize that 180 minutes had passed.
Yeah.
And they were sitting there and they said, what did I say? Yeah. Right? What did I say? And it was because once you get into the zone, right? You're in the zone.
Exactly.
And the question, you're tapping in, and you get your brain connected to your jaw, and those files start to, and that information is coming out. And I thought that was one of the most rewarding things for me, where I never, Debs, when they say never, I'm telling you, I have never seen my own stuff.
Wow.
I've never heard it. Nope. I've never listened to a broadcast of Fade to Black or Coast to Coast or watch a TV show or watched a movie or no, too painful. But I have never. I went and listened and watched their podcast. I actually did that, and I reached out, and the first thing that happened, the interesting thing was, probably the most rewarding part of all of it. I had wrote them back and said, "Man, I just watched it. Man, it was thank you." I got a text from my daughter the next day. Dad, I just saw you on blah, 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 blah. It was great. My daughter, I was like, okay, all right. Life is good. Yeah.
You had a touchdown if that happens.
That was
I'm a mom of grown men, so I know how that goes.
That felt pretty good. And I texted, I go, how did you know about that? I'm on their list. I'm a subscriber. It's like, really? Okay.
Cool.
All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you what the podcast was about. But anyway.
But you were literally, you're doing what I'm teaching people how to do in these sessions, which is tapping into the quantum field. That's where all information lies.
Well, but see, here's the thing with that. Here's the big picture. Today's society understands these very complex subjects, and if they don't understand it, they're trying to understand it. When you go, yeah, it's so true. Like, what's my daughter doing interested in parallel worlds and connective consciousness of the universe? She never talked to me about that, right? But that's where the world is. And when you see something like Quantum Mania, okay, it's a Marvel movie, with Ant-Man. Yeah. Okay, now watch Quantum Mania. That is teaching way outside of our community, by the way. We're talking in the mainstream world of entertainment. Teaching these concepts of parallel worlds and the multiverse and consciousness and connectivity and the quantum realm and what can be living in the all big time. And so to wonder how my daughter or somebody working at Costco that I've never met before or whatever that wants to have these conversations, they're getting it. They are understanding it. They are seeing it out there in the mainstream. And I love that. And you and I and our community, we've been fighting for a long time for some mainstream recognition instead of teasing. Right. Now that we have it, I kind of miss the old days a little bit.
I know, because I like a good fight.
Yeah. Kind of miss the old days when it was us, fighting the good fight.
But it's really cool, though, to not have to work so hard to explain to people so that you can get to another level with what they're doing. What's so fantastic for me is I'm not just getting people now, it really the last 5-10 years, but certainly the last 5 years. I'm not just getting people who, and no disrespect, but I'm not getting people who want to know how to quit smoking through hypnosis, right? Or, they want to just visit their childhood for this one thing. No, they want to know, what am I and how do I access that? And how do I tap into the rest of the me's out there, the infinite quantum, iterations of myself, so that I can be better here? How can I?
They're not looking for better sleep patterns.
Oh, no.
And so a couple of months ago, I have a tree out in front of my house. Hasn't been trimmed in about 4 years. So it's about 30 feet too big on all sides, right? And my neighbor, Dave, great guy, he's like, now he's talking to me. Hey, man, it's kind of getting over into my rose bushes. I'm like, okay, I'll get this taken care of. Yeah. So I have a company come out and they're trimming the tree. And they're starting in the morning. I'm out there with Dave and taking pictures, and he's happy. So I come back in the house and I'm doing my thing. And a few hours later, I go out and it was, getting pretty cleared out. There was a young worker that was taking the limbs and putting them in a wheelbarrow, loading them into this dump truck. Right? There's like 4 guys, and he's like the labor guy, the young kid,
Right.
And he stops, and on all that I love, this is what happens. He stops. He puts the wheelbarrow down, and he turns to me. Jimmy Church. I go, what? He goes, it is you. Well, I said, what? Right? Yeah. And he comes up and he goes, okay, look, man, first, can I do a selfie? The other 3 guys, the guy that owns the company, they're kind of watching what's going on. And I'm down there, posing with a selfie with this kid. And he turns to me and he goes, just one question. I said, what? Okay. All right. Is the parallel edge to another reality like right here? And how do I get to it? He's pointing to the street.
Wow.
I was like, man, that's a pretty deep question.
Yeah.
And it's a good one. Yeah. And so you're absolutely right with this. It was a really thrilling. It was a cool moment. It was a really cool moment. The owner of the company, I'll just call him Mr. Z, really cool guy, came up to me a couple hours like, what was that all about? I go, I do some stuff. He goes, really? And I explained it to him a little bit. He didn't get it, but he really wondered why this young kid lost it, dropped his stuff, because it was his opportunity to ask the question from somebody that he's been following for a while that has been on his mind. Is the edge to the parallel, is it here? And if it's like right around us, how do I get through it? Wow, profound. A young mind, just thinking powerful. When you and I were kids at that age, man, I was trying to get a large order of fries through a drive-through on my learner's permit. That was my travel to a parallel world. Man, it was cool. It was cool.
That's so cool. Well, I love it. And I think, I don't think I know. We are moving rapidly into an absolutely new phase globally, but especially in our culture is so chaotic and so materialistic and so fear-based. At least on the surface it is. But there's this undercurrent of all that stuff is putting pressure on us to the point where our consciousness is saying, okay, this is that place where your timing mechanism is going to go off. And I believe everybody has one.
For sure.
Timing mechanism is going off, and you are going to start to look at things with new eyes and ask a lot of questions. And it's going to be uncomfortable probably, but it's going to be the thrilling ride of your life if you continue on with it. So people like you and I and all the people that we, engage with, our teachers, our peers, our friends, it's incumbent upon us to share that information in such a way that they can handle it, but not be afraid to share it anymore and not hold back. I mean, I do not hold back ever anymore. If someone doesn't, if they ask me a question, I don't preach it to anybody, but if someone asks me a question, I'm going to give them what I know about it, but without candy coating it or giving them the dummies version.
That's what comes with age and maturing. Because I'm turning into the cranky old man. You're the cranky old lady, and that's I'm so proud of being that guy now. Where I used to hold back because you have maybe a fear, maybe there's an ego thing where you're trying to make everybody happy and trying to make everybody smile. But that's not how you move forward. And to paint it in another light, let's jump out of this car and put yourselves in the car of E.T.
Yeah.
And they would have, if they have advanced and matured and existed and survived enough to arrive here on this planet, that
Mhm.
means they have gone through what we are going through right now.
I agree.
And I think, yeah, and I think that's the question I would have for ET. The questions about where's your home planet, what kind of food do you eat, what kind of engines do you have on your starship? Yeah, though, okay, we'll get to those.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing that we could learn from ET is, how did you survive?
How'd you do it?
How'd you make it? How'd you get through this doo-doo field that we're walking through right now?
Because this is that this is it. This is that threshold phase.
It's a doo-doo field. Yeah.
I love you so much for saying what you just said, because my favorite book, well, I have two favorite books, but one of my top favorite books, top two, is Contact by Carl Sagan.
Mm-hmm.
And my very favorite movie is Contact.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, in that movie, that's what the scientist, Ellie, says. When she's asked, like she's in some sort of a trial or something.
She's at the hearing when she comes back.
When she comes back, and no one believes that she's gone anywhere. And they say, "Well, what did you find out?" And she said, "I'm still searching, but my main question is, how did you do it? How did you survive this? How did you get through this point where we're at right now without annihilating yourself?" Right?
Yep. And that's why that is so profound. And I agree with you. That's my number 2 movie. And number 1 being 2001 Space Odyssey, but that's another conversation for another time.
That's fine. We're just juxtaposed. That used to be 2001 for me.
But what happened right after that? Matthew McConaughey messes it up for everybody, because he comes in, all right. So are you a religious person, Ellie? And by doing that, asking a scientist that, which is a preloaded, front-loaded, nasty question, to ask a scientist, because you know the answer ahead of time, and you're trying to derail somebody's reputation and everything else. And that's the other part that we have going on right now when it comes to Contact. It's very, very strange. Not Contact the movie, Contact our experience. But so strange. Well, okay, so here's the other part. All right. So our sun, I'm going to talk about this at the Contact Modalities XPO, by the way, a little bit. This is part of what I've learned. What have I learned? Okay, so as I go through this ET contact consciousness thing, I'm always pulled back into the science, which I'm just equally as fascinated about. And it helps ground me too, as well, to let me know that my woo-woo self is flying over the target and I'm okay. All right. Is this. Our sun is 5 billion years old. Our planet is 5 billion years old, 4.5 billion years. Our sun is expected to live to about 10 billion years. So we're halfway through that. But in a very short while, between 500,000 and a billion years, 500,000, half a billion, it's going to become extremely unstable. And it's going to expand. It's the first thing it's going to do. It's going to burn out the technical side, and the science side of it is it's going to burn out its hydrogen core. That's going to be replaced by helium, which is heavier than hydrogen. Right now it's burning at 10 million degrees Fahrenheit, but helium at its core will take about 100 million degrees to burn and create fusion. So when that happens, the gravity force that is making hydrogen burn won't be great enough to compress helium. Okay, so when that happens, it's going to become unstable and it's going to just grow. And when it grows, it is going to. Right now, we see the sun being this big.
Yeah.
When it happens, the sun is going to take up the entire sky. All right. By that time, we won't have an atmosphere. The oceans will have, melted away, and they're gone, steamed away. And we will be gone.
Right.
There won't be anybody here to witness any of that. Why? Because we will have built ships and we will have blown this popsicle stand.
Mhm.
Now, E.T., their sun, if our universe is 14 billion years old, 13.8, that means, and we're only, we're 2/3 on the late side of it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So there are plenty, as in trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions of stars that are going through the processes that our sun is about to go through. And those inhabitants of those planets have gotten on their starships and are heading out looking for some place to live or hang out, right, and survive.
Right.
That is probably who is arriving here. And so to think that it's always the best way to look at it is flip it around. And why would ET be coming here? What would the interest be? Well, I just gave you the number one.
Yeah.
Probably their planet. Yeah, probably their planet became unstable. And ours is definitely 100%. We will not be here in 500,000 years.
Yeah.
We won't. And that's
wrong. Our planet is very unstable at this point if we don't, try to do something, notwithstanding the sun's instability, but just our own planet's instability right now it's very tenuous.
Yeah, we have to, and in order to, excuse me. All right. In order to get to that 500,000 years, we have to survive climate change. We have to survive disease and famine and water shortages and hatred and fear,
right,
and maybe a cosmic event or two, or an asteroid impact, or maybe an alien invasion or two. You could probably throw those into as well. But we would have to survive all of those things just to get to the starship and find a way to build that. I've also said, what could bring the world together? What could make the borders of countries disappear, skin color disappear, religions disappear, politics disappear, where we just become earthlings? What would do that? Well, I think letting the world know that, hey, we kind of got to go.
Yeah.
So let's take care of the planet for now. Let's make sure that for generations to come, that it is a beautiful place, but eventually we have to go as earthlings. So let's get this project together. Let's become members of the universe. Let's get our seat at the table. And I think that's the one thing that would bring us together. And if so, ET comes and arrives at Delavan Lake, Delavan, Wisconsin, right? And we're sitting out there doing our thing at the expo. Yeah. And ET comes down. Chris Bledsoe calls him in. So anyway, at that moment, we would have to understand that you're not, I'm not going to approach one of the ETs and go, so what state on your planet are you from? What's your religion?
I know.
Right.
No, cocktail lounge is that anyway? Right?
Well, because we would consider them from the planet Xanadu or whatever.
Yeah.
We wouldn't think that they were still divided, right? They're not going to come here. They're going to address us as earthlings, not Americans, Russians, Chinese, Peruvian.
They probably fall so far by that time that doesn't even cross their mind that we have borders and categories and labels and all of this.
How primitive.
Yeah.
We would literally appear to be cavemen with clubs and animal skins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we need
like amoebas,
seriously amoebas. But that's it's one of the more fascinating aspects to all of this, because I think that now we are finally starting to think in those terms.
Yes.
Where we never thought in those terms before. It's not a question anymore about, are we alone? The question is how much life is out there. That's the question, and the answer is probably infinite. You've heard me talk about this enough. I think it's a really big number.
It is.
And so I think we're comfortable with that, where we never really consider that the earth is all there is. No, we don't look at it that way. And ET, certainly, if they are getting here, then they had those thoughts at one time too, right, where they thought that they were the only planet with life, right? Then they built telescopes and they start peering, just everything that we're doing, right?
Because really, creation is holographic. It's a fractal universe, right? So what's going on even deep inside every one of our cells is going on here, and it's going on out there.
One of my favorite points. I love that. If, and I believe this to be true, don't have the proof yet, neither does science, but I think consciousness, I'm not planting a flag here, okay, but I think that consciousness is everywhere. And if it is indeed everywhere, and we always talk about Mother Earth and Mother Gaia, but I think maybe stars are sentient, and that, that it's just a living, breathing, thinking, thought-filled existence.
It is
the universe, and that's I really think that's one of the most powerful thing. And when I certainly talk about this a lot, I've never heard anybody else, physicist or anybody else, talk about this, and it came to me one night when I was reading. But Einstein died before he could complete his last task, which was he wanted a unified theory of everything. All right. E equals MC squared wasn't enough. Powerful, good stuff, Albert.
Beginner steps.
But he wanted the one equate that the theory of everything. And you can't have that if you haven't figured out consciousness.
Exactly.
You can't have
to understand what consciousness is, or you don't get. You can throw all of the facts right in our face, and we won't get it. So really, we're on the same page here, because
we are.
That's the nature of my work. It's the nature of your work.
That's why I love that statement of yours. It is really, really, really true. And for some reason, and this happened over 1,000 years, 2,000 years, certainly over the last 500, and it's gotten worse. In that, physicists, scientists, mystics, doctors, teachers were always one person in the village.
Yeah.
They did it all.
Yeah.
They did it all. They were alchemists, right? Religious scholars, teachers, shamans, right? The scientists, the doctors, right? It was always one, right? The witch doctor, right? Okay. And then I would say that with Isaac Newton, he was probably the last of those kinds of thought leaders. He wrote some of the best stuff that we've ever had on religion. He was a religious scholar, theologian. Some of the best math books ever, gravity ever. And he was also an alchemist. The reason why we have GPS today, the reason why we can fly to the moon is Newton's equations. We haven't changed them. They're the same. They're the same equation. GPS, geostationary satellites right now in your car, your GPS and your cell phone, so you can make it to grandma's house for Thanksgiving, is because of Isaac Newton. That's crazy. But there isn't a physicist today that will talk about God or consciousness or spirituality. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to that. We need to have these great thinkers of ours thinking
More
outside of the
holistic.
box. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have to tell you, Jimmy, I'm meeting some of them who have started to integrate that. They're starting to. Some of them are starting to go, oh my God, the language of science is described in the Vedas thousands of years ago. How'd that happen? We think we invented, found the atom. That was written 4,000 years ago in the Vedas.
And the Greeks, when you really go and look hard at how the Greeks were thinking about things, they were thinking in terms of the quantum already. They couldn't see it, but they felt it. And the same thing with the stars. Yeah, same thing with now. Well, does that make one? Because I know it does it to me. Does that kind of lean towards? Man, I hate to go into religion, but does that kind of lean towards an alien progenitor to some of these advanced theories and ideas? Yeah, and I think I'm on the right side of history on this one, right? In the future, they're going to look back and go, okay, all right, Debs and Cats, Debs and Church had a conversation about this once. Yeah. Because I think that there's so many great people that I've learned from have talked about this stuff, but it has allowed me to just kind of take it a step further. It seems rather impossible for tribal, nomadic people in Egypt walking around the desert wearing animal skins and foraging for seeds in the dirt for dinner, arrive at the Giza Plateau one day, and the next day have writing, building the Sphinx, building the Great Pyramid, building Khafre, building Menkaure, writing, laws, music, roads, engineering,
everything.
A fully upright civilization overnight.
Yeah.
I just
say what? Yeah.
I have a hard time accepting that, even though that's what we're taught in schools, and that the same thing happened in Mesopotamia. Just one day. I no, and then
one day they learned how to circumnavigate the world.
They knew the stars and
Iris boats. Give me a break. Yeah.
So when you have something like the Great Pyramid and Khafre and Menkaure are not the only. It's not just the Great Pyramid, but to a 60th of a degree off of north. So I don't know about the house that you live in. I don't. But I know about the house that I live in. And if I went to the construction company that built this place and I said, okay, guys, I need my foundation to be a 60th of a degree off of north. They go, dude, what? Why?
They'd laugh.
Do you know how difficult that is? I don't know if we could do that. But yet the Egyptians did, and it's still that way, allegedly 5,000 years later.
And look at all of the megalithic sacred sites around the world.
Pick one.
All these,
Pick one.
I'm just looking at them. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, where you just were.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My favorite, Göbekli Tepe. What the hell?
Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. It's astounding to me that people can be so, I'm going to use a nice word here, so innocent that they believe that just somehow happened from people who only maybe had copper tools, which are very soft and can't cut any kind of stone. And from people who, didn't have even written language yet. So here's the thing, though. I mean, the main group it's a group entity that talks through me sometimes, often called the teachers. Sometimes they call themselves a star teacher. They don't. I asked for a name because they said they're too evolved. They don't have a label. Whether you believe in that kind of stuff or not, incredible information comes from them. And the most incredible for me that knocked me over with a feather when they first started coming through was that they are us. They are us on just a different frequency. But if you have to look at it from a human chronological standpoint, they are our progeny. Describe, and they
why not?
Exactly what you said. We went through all these steps, eventually became starfaring, interstellar, eventually interdimensional, and eventually had the ability to be physical or not physical, reaching through these different layers of being, because that's all it is. It's all stacked in one place at the same time forever.
Right.
Reaching down and giving us Post-it notes, like with Bill and Ted's Great Adventure, from the future about how to proceed and not blow ourselves up.
Isn't that the easiest answer? Isn't that the easiest, most fundamental thing that you can conclude to? It just, the other answers to it that anthropology and historians and archaeologists will tell us is that, well, man, they were just kind of smarter than you giving them credit for. That's a cop out.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up.
It's a cop out, and it doesn't answer. It doesn't answer for Göbekli Tepe, and it simply does not. And Göbekli Tepe, and I'm going to go back. You said something very profound there, and so I'm going to go back to Göbekli Tepe, and at the same time address what you just said, and that is I think you said naive. Is that what you use? Was that the word? I
used the word innocent because
innocent.
I didn't want to use the word that I really want to use.
Yeah, I was going to interject in that. But so Göbekli Tepe was and should have made all of those types sit up and go, whoa, hold on a minute here. You mean we've been lied to? Oh, this is a whole nother earth here. This is a whole nother situation, because what we have been, and I know I'm beating a drum that's already been beat to death, but
new people
we have been told over and over and over and over and over again a story that fits the narrative, so the dogma can turn into truth.
Exactly.
Which is 3000 BC, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Giza, everything else. There's nothing to see here. There was nothing before then. And I have had conversations with the leading physicists and scientists on this planet, the biggest, who will not have a conversation with me about anything before 3000 BC. They don't want it. They just don't want to go there. And so Göbekli Tepe comes along, and it's not before 3000 BC by 100 years, which would be profound, or 500 years, or 1,000. It's 7,000 years older, and it may be older and bigger than that. And as crazy as that is, and it should be the biggest news on any network around the world, it should have caused the reprinting of every history book and everything else. But no, that wasn't enough to wake everybody up. And the fact that Göbekli Tepe is there certainly indicates to me that there's a whole lot of Göbekli Tepes out there around the world. Yet
there are hundreds of tepes still buried in that area.
Just right there. Just right there. So what's left to be when you go to you just brought up Machu Picchu.
Yeah,
when
look
you
at
go
the LiDAR mapping of the Amazon right now.
or Mexico,
Oh, Mexico. I know.
yeah,
Crazy.
Guatemala and Honduras and Belize
All
and
of those
Panama.
civilizations
Right.
are in the jungle that we didn't know were there.
So when you go to Pumapunku's easy because it's kind of like the Göbekli Tepe of North America, South America. But you go to these different sites in Peru and Bolivia where you see the Spanish construction, you see the Inca, and the Inca were just incredible. And they were only there for 100, 150 years, so tragic. But you see the Inca construction, and then you see the old stuff, the megalithic cultures.
Yeah.
And the megalithic stuff, when the Inca arrived, it was already there.
Yeah.
No, nobody really wants to address that part of it. Just like Egypt, and the bigger, like Baalbek in Lebanon, the bigger the stones, the older the culture.
Yeah.
The heavier the megalithic stones are, the older. And nobody really, it's because they don't have the answers, and it's a scary zone for them to get into, where the possibilities are these stones could predate the Ice Age. What if it pushes back 50,000 years?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we're starting to realize that it's probably that way.
I feel so sorry for people like Graham Hancock and my friend Scott Walter. People who they can, they're literally screaming at everyone.
Scott who?
Scott Walter. Scott Walter, who is
what does he do?
He is.
I'm just messing with you. He's my best friend. I was going to mess with
like
you.
Knight Templar and all of that, but he is trying to show that the whole Columbus discovered America and everything.
Yeah,
that's predated by thousands and thousands of years by other cultures, and that they made friends with the native people here, and yet they have all of these books, all of this proof, all these shows. And everybody just says, or they don't pay attention to them at all. And they're preaching the same sermon you are,
Scott's work. Scott was, by the way, if my memory is correct on this, he was my first guest on Coast to Coast.
Was he really?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
XPO too.
This is how it's a fond memory of mine. So I hope I'm not proven to be wrong. But I signed my contracts with Coast, right? Done. And they call me, the executive producer, Lisa. She's no longer there. She just retired. But Lisa calls me. I'm in Costco with a giant shopping cart, right?
Yeah.
Got a big jar of mayonnaise. I just put it in, and she goes, "Who's going to be your first guest?" I said, "I'm going to call you back." And I grabbed my cell phone. I want Scott Walter on. So I called Scott. I'm in Costco, man. I'm in Costco. Scott, Jimmy, what's up? I said, "Hey, man, I'm the new host at Coast to Coast." "Oh, man, you want to be my first guest?" "Absolutely." I said, "I'll call you back." It was like this Friday. I hang up, called Lisa. I think that's how it happened. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, Scott was my first guest on Coast to Coast. And so a little inside information for everybody out there. The amount of evidence that has been presented, in my eyes, I think it'll hold up in court. But here's the other side of it, is that guys like Scott, you mentioned Graham Hancock or Robert Schock, John Anthony West.
Exactly.
So many have been called crazy, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists, and pseudoscience.
Oh yeah.
and character assassination attempts, and really coming at them really hard. But they never gave up. And now, and a lot of this, here's probably the most important point with all of this, is Göbekli Tepe wasn't discovered until 1995. And Klaus Schmidt, and it was discovered by the guy that owned the property there, and he was farming, and he kept breaking his plow on the stones.
On that thing,
yeah. And so he digs down with his son, sees a little bit of writing, says, "Oh, hold on." They call Istanbul, call the university. They send out, Klaus Schmidt goes out and says, "Oh, okay." But that was 1995 when Jaws, John Anthony West, and Robert Schoch first presented their evidence about the Sphinx being at least 10 to 12,000 years old or older. In 1992 in San Diego, they got laughed at and nobody took them serious. And the response from all of those professional geologists and everybody else was that there's something before 3000 BC. So if you find something before 3000 BC, come back to us. We'll have a conversation. But until then, Sphinx is 3000 BC, and that's it in the Giza Plateau. What happens 3 years later? Göbekli Tepe gets discovered. It wasn't supposed to exist. So it pushes it back 7,000 years. Did it tip the world of geology on its side? No.
No.
Anthropology? No. Archaeology? No. History? No. And it's like, what do you want it carved in stone? Well,
it is.
We did that too. And so, but in the end, were they vindicated? Sure. And I've asked Robert that. He's a dear friend, and I love that guy to death. Mm-hmm. And I asked him last year, we were on stage, and I said, now that, this has happened, do you feel vindicated? And he started crying. This is on stage, started crying. Wow. And he said, I got to tell you what my family went through. Forget about me personally. I'm a man. I can deal with it. I can deal with the education system. I can deal with Boston University. I can deal with the press. But what my family went through, it was horrible. It was horrible. And I don't know if I would do it again because of what they went through personally. And that's the part that is so frustrating for all of those out there that are trying to just look at the science, look at the evidence that is presented, and then just turn around and hand the research off to everybody and say, this is what we've got, which is what science is supposed to be, right?
That's what science is. It's, but you just spoke about that with Robert. And I think about, this expo that we're going to be doing in May in Wisconsin. And you so graciously offered to host the thing, but you're also going to be doing a very big fireside chat with our mutual friend, Chris Bledsoe. I think
that's right.
Chris and his family went through for the last, 20 years. And he's finally becoming not just accepted, but celebrated finally. And it's just so sad that they had to go through so much crap from society because no one wants to upset the apple cart of dogma and all of the constructs that we have in place. But I'm telling you, these constructs have to fall away before we can move up in the food chain to join the galactic community. And that sounds new age and woo-woo, but it's not. It's just we need to evolve so that we can be a bigger part of, the cosmos. That's what we're supposed to do.
I have a fear, and this is my fear. And I say this in a little bit of a cavalier tone. All right. But let's just say E.T. is flying through the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Right. And they cruise by Earth and they're looking out the window, some binoculars, and they just kind of check things out, look at some of the TV programming. They see the Kardashians, right? Yeah, whatever. The I don't know, queens, housewives of Laguna, whatever it is. I'm picking on them. I'm sorry. But you understand. And so what is it that they would see? How are we represented? And do they just go, we'll check back in 1,000 years, right? And they just drive the car to the
take a left, right?
Yeah. That's my Pandora's box.
I think that often, but then I think about what's happening globally, consciousness-wise. At least from my perspective, what I'm seeing is our people's switches are being turned on. Their timing mechanisms are going off, and all of these latent, dormant things that have been on sleep mode that we all have are starting to come online. Now, a lot of people just, they're being labeled as ADHD or, behavior,
psychotic issues,
psychotic, schizophrenic.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, back way back when I was interning in clinical psych, we would do these trips to Menninger's Institute and observe, and we were taken to what was then known as the schizophrenic ward and observe. And what I got, because I was born with all this stuff turned on instantly, and I think you and Whitley were talking about that just, in one of these shows recently, is the telepathy, although I call it telepathy because it's more than just minds, it's everything. Being coherent, and those people on the inside, the weather's just fine, but they are focused in more than one frequency at the same time. And they're okay with that. But their bodies, their spacesuits, what I call this thing, the spacesuit that they have on is so rudimentary that it does not translate what is going on inside the operating system. And so it looks like it's dysfunctional.
And we observe it that way. Yeah. And we observe in our ignorance. Yeah. Yes. In our ignorance. But with, the telepathy tapes that everybody's talking about, it's starting to come out. Science is starting to catch up and go, oh, wait a minute, these autistic people, they're just communicating differently. Well, there's your sign. We've hit that point where not just special people like Edgar Cayce or, insert famous psychic can pull information from another person's mind or the quantum field. But everyone is starting to have these experiences. Now, most of them don't know what to do with it, but that's our job, is to kind of give them some relevance and give them some information about, why this is happening and how it's happening. And instead of trying to grasp to the old constructs that are surely crumbling to the ground. That's why there's so much chaos. But it has to, so that we can give birth to the new human, basically. Right. This is the big fear, I think, that not only that I have, but the scientists and the big thinkers out there. I think they're scared of something, and this is what they're scared of. So ET lands, and we've all heard over and over again, we need to communicate to them with math. We need to, because that's the universal language. We need to start there. And what if the opposite happens? What if ET steps off that craft and our Neil deGrasse Tyson, right, steps up and wants to start talking about the frequency of hydrogen, so we could develop a communication with our two cultures. And ET goes, that math stuff ain't worked for us once. But that's not what it's about, man. It's about consciousness.
It's about coherence.
Yeah. And just shuts down what we thought the pinnacles, the apogee of civilization,
Right.
which is science and math, and
Because we're still so egocentric that we think
and dismiss consciousness because you can't touch it, you can't measure it, you can't test it in a lab. At least that's what they think.
Yeah.
So because of all of these elementary fundamental obstacles that they always have to overcome for science, which is come up with a theory, come up with a test it in the lab, repeat the process, and then come up with a conclusion, write your report up, and publish. Right? That's it. And I get it in the funding environment of today's, universities, that you want to play inbounds most of the time. I get that. But because you can't use the scientific method on consciousness, they feel that it's a time waster and that there is nothing to it.
And that's wrong. It's not real, that it's just not, it's just a nebulous idea. But here's the deal. A lot of scientists say if you can't prove it with our science, it doesn't exist. Well, how egocentric is that? We do not have in this very young third dimensional arena of our collective knowledge, we do not have the metrics or the tools to measure any kind of phenomenon that is beyond third dimensional phenomenon. We don't. So to just say it doesn't exist so that you don't have to worry about it, that's like saying, well, there's clouds over there, but they're just clouds. When you know that those kind of clouds usually bring a tornado, but you're just going to not pay attention to them, so it's going to be okay.
Every physicist has that problem. Yeah. They know that if they go out and do an interview, they go and do a conference and they do a lecture or whatever, and you let it go free form, that somebody's going to bring up consciousness. Eventually, it's going to get to that part of the conversation, and they are not comfortable with discussing it because they don't understand any of it. And because of that, there's this fear, and they don't want to get into a position and cornered with a subject that they completely, absolutely, 100% don't have the answers for or don't understand. And to back off of that, their answer is usually it's chemistry. It's just that it's chemistry. It's a chemical thing that goes off, and consciousness comes out of chemistry. And it's wait, that's a cop. Okay,
if that's in the brain, yeah, it's.
But if that's the case, then why aren't you measuring it?
Yeah.
If that's the case, why aren't you in the laboratory showing how consciousness is being created? So they can't go there. They don't want to go there. Yeah. In order for us to achieve our place in evolution, the next stage, it's going to be consciousness. There isn't anything else left to. No,
it's all I'm interested in at this point because it is the seat of everything. And you can't, even every single day we're disproving what we thought we knew. So why not just cut to the chase and study the thing that it's emitting from? But
that's the scientific method.
Oh,
and it is. And to your point, to drive this home one more time for everybody, science is nothing but, if you are a physicist or a scientist or a biologist or a chemist, you need to have really thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason for that is because no matter what you prove today, tomorrow it's going to be proven wrong. Somebody else faster, smarter than you is going to come up with something else. And that's what science is. That's how we got to where we are today. So, yeah. Go and mess up with consciousness. That's okay. It'll get corrected tomorrow. That'll get corrected and corrected and corrected. But that's a scientific method. Don't be afraid. Going back to Newton, and all of those crazy outside of the box scientists and people that moved us forward for thousands of years were people that had no fear, the Galileos of the world, right? Copernicus. When you think of the great Greek philosophers, any of them, most of them, you go back and you look at those guys. Those are guys that were not conforming to what they were told,
right?
And Galileo paid his life.
Right. I was going to say, not just ostracization or exile or anything. Often, annihilation.
Burned
they got rid of them. They were heretic.
Yeah. And so, and in the end, here's the crazy thing. And you would think that we would learn. Humans have amnesia of the highest order, man. We just forget things.
Yeah.
But here we have Galileo, who was imprisoned for life because he wouldn't recant. And, his book and his statements about the earth not being the center of everything. Mm-hmm. And so the church came down on him in the worst of ways. But in the end, the church has their own observatories.
I know.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. Can I tell you, when I was in college, and this was 50 years ago, some cardinal from the Vatican came and spoke at Kansas University, where I was.
Right.
And he was the head of the Vatican astrophysics team. And he ran the observatory.
And which one? In Arizona?
No.
Do you remember the
I can't remember, but he was the head dude for the Vatican for the study of the stars and the physics of the universe.
Do you know what the observatory is?
I ever heard.
We'll come back to that. I promise. Do you know what the observatory in Tempe is called? The Vatican Observatory. Do you know what it's called?
I don't.
You ready? Are you sitting down? You're standing, right?
I'm standing. Yeah, you can tell.
Hold on to the edge of your desk.
Okay.
It's called Lucifer.
Dude, of course it is.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up.
The light bearer. Of course it is.
Yeah, it's called Lucifer.
I love it.
So, but back to your point, what did he say at Kansas?
Well, he turned me on so much. I was already way turned on about all this stuff anyway by then, but he said, and of course, he had to couch it in certain terms because he still worked for the Vatican. He was still a priest, basically, cardinal. But he said that the Holy See was revisiting, now this is 50 years ago, was revisiting the way that they were interpreting the words of God, the words of, Christ and everything as regards this, particularly the Old Testament. They were starting to go through that and everything. And all I could think of was, because I had taken so many courses and I was in an honors humanities type program. And I knew that these, that by that time that the Christian Bible that most Christians read these days was not written in even the language of, the time from when all those people, it was just passed down from, one to three, and not to step on anybody's beliefs. But he literally admitted that they were going to have to restructure and retranslate the way that they were reading this stuff because it was just, it's not applicable to what we are observing. He was a great scientist. We are observing things that are in direct opposition of what the church has been teaching. And so we are revisiting everything. That was.
You can't. I love that. I love that. And scientists cannot get away from. They're pragmatic. They're black and white. and they need data, right? They need that's what they're supporting. I get that, right? And the Vatican is no different than that. The data is there, and you can deny when you're controlling stuff, but when the data is out there for everybody to absorb, then you kind of got to go along with the flow. Check this out. Hit share screen. Just right there. Just right there at the bottom. See it?
I see it. Yeah, I got it. Here we go.
Just click share. That's all you got to do.
It's not doing anything here.
Okay.
That's crazy. Let me, it's showing that I can just add to the stage.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's Lucifer. That's the Vatican Observatory in Arizona.
So beautiful.
Now, so Galileo, right, who pays with his reputation in life, right? Imprisoned, imprisonment until he died. And then the Vatican turns around and builds that.
Yeah.
He just got to love. That's
the hypocrisy of it all.
The hypocrisy of it. I mean, what do you do with that? And the other part for me, a great conversation, by the way, absolutely perfect.
I'm loving
is that I've had so many people come up to me. I've only had this is 2025. So this started to kick off in probably 2017, started to get strong 2018, 2019, and then we've had the last couple of years and so forth. But I've had people write me, ask me, say things on the air all the time. Okay, man, do you feel vindicated? Mm-hmm. I did an interview with the BBC not too long ago. And they asked me that question. So do you feel vindicated? I go, no, I don't feel vindicated. This is the beginning of the road. We haven't won any prizes yet, right? I haven't got my UFO check in the mail. This is the very beginning of it. And there's always the follow-up question. Well, so now what are you going to do for a gig? What are you talking about?
Oh my God!
This is the
we're just cracking it open.
Right. That's where we are right now. We cannot relax. No. It's again. I haven't won a prize. I have not, and I haven't. No, and so right now is not the time to go. Oh, we can. No. We need to just keep this thing moving forward. I don't know. And who you're talking about getting old earlier, right? The cranky old man. And I don't know, how much longer I have to be cranky, but I feel that I am going to be able to sit back and go, wow, it was all worth it. There are so many, when I think of, like Stanton Friedman, and so many, Jim Mars, John Anthony West.
I know.
Just on and on and on and on and on and on and on that have been at this for a very long time. Yeah. Leonard Stringfield. I mean, how cool would it be for Donald Kehoe, that have been working so hard at this that they're not around to feel when it's 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago when I was watching a press conference from the White House on C-SPAN, and I'm prepping for the show, coast to coast, doing whatever, and I'm writing and this press conference, and I'm watching it, and I heard the press secretary for the White House at the podium, at the microphone, say UFO. I was like,
what? Yeah.
I was like, ha ha ha, we've arrived, and I had to catch myself for a second. Mm-hmm. I remember going on the air that night and talking about how great of a moment that was. We can't, even for me, I had to catch myself and go, wait, this is just the beginning. Yeah, this is just the beginning. It was cool. It was great.
Well, David Grush going, It does.
Yeah.
Every new thing gives me more fuel to keep going because this is what they say. This is how they say it happens. So I'm like, cool. We stay in, the consciousness lane. We're going to get there. We will get there.
Well, when I say to people, and I stop saying it, by the way, I have, I had a moment. I need you to picture this. I'm going to paint a picture for you and your audience. I'm on stage. In front of me is 2,500 people. Okay. That's a big crowd. And my panel, I've got Danny Sheehan, I've got Linda Moulton Howe, I've got Richard Dolan, right? It's just on and on. It's just, everybody's out there, Graham Hancock, everybody's on, I got 2,500 people in front of me. And the New York Times is blowing off and things are just happening and disclosure this and disclosure that. And I said on stage, I was talking to Danny Sheehan, and I said on stage, I don't need disclosure.
Yeah.
And the second that I said that, I got booed.
Yeah.
Now this is 2,500 people really, really pissed off. And Danny Sheehan says the same thing. Well, I agree with you, Jimmy. And the boos got louder. And it was at that moment that I realized that my version of disclosure is not the same as everybody else's.
It's not.
It's not. And for those out there that cannot talk to their family, their children, their co-workers, their mom, their dad, without getting ridiculed or teased, or at school, you know what they need? They need the president to come on TV live and say, we're not alone. Yeah. This is official. They need that so they can turn around and slap their husband upside their head and go, see, this is what I've been on about. This is what I've been talking to you. This is what this, and they can have and share that relief and that tension, leave their body. And that's what I have learned. So right now, for those people out there that are like that, it's to them that I say right now, it's not the time for us to feel comfortable.
No,
this is when we turn up the heat. Mm-hmm. Right now, this is when we turn up the heat. And for those people out there that need that type of disclosure, I've seen, I have seen a daytime with friends, 30 of us. It's not once, but I saw a daytime Holy Grail UFO, 400 feet tall, 200 feet wide, right? And so we see this thing, and it lasted for about 15 seconds, and then it phased out in the middle of the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, blue sky. Now, after seeing that, just my own eyeballs, right? I know we're being visited.
Right.
Now, do I know what
experience?
Yeah. Do I know what that was? No, I don't. I do. Where they came? No. Did I communicate? No. Was I abducted? No. None of that. But I know that what we've been told is a lie.
No.
And so I don't need disclosure to answer that question. I need to go on my own journey. But that's not good enough for everybody else. It's not.
It's not. We have to be comprehensive about it. Although I have to say direct experience is really the best way. It's the most satisfying way. That's why we do things like CE5. That's why, we get together and we meditate together and get coherent in heart and mind. And then we just sit there in that energy. And I'll never forget Whitley Strieber saying that I think we were filming our film, Alien Abduction Answers, and in a break, I said, how do you think the visitors knew to pick you? Because that was his big question. Why me? I wasn't even interested. Why me? And eventually he got the answer from them. And it was because you glowed. And at the time, he and his wife, Annie, had been practicing the Gurdjieff method of meditation for years, nightly, daily. And so his frequency was glowing to them.
It was an antenna.
He was an antenna. He was a beacon. Sure. We turn ourselves into transceivers for this two-way communication, or, coherent communication. However you can get into a high-level frequency of being, in other words, to use layman's terms, a high-level emotional state, something that is not fear, anger, nothing negativity, nothing low or heavy, joy, playfulness, relaxed, whatever.
Did you say you read Gurdjieff? You read Gurdjieff?
Oh, I did many years ago, but I
don't have the patience.
I do practices way beyond that. I practices way beyond that.
I so wanted to love it and appreciate it, but it was too intelligent for me. That guy, his writing, it's a physically brain draining.
Yeah.
It's man. You know what? Okay, so this is my CE5. I'm going to give you my CE5 recipe. Okay, you ready?
Do it.
You can call them in. We are going to do this at Delavan Lake with Chris Bledsoe. This is how I call him in.
Who's one of my two best friends. He's got this. I mean, she studied years, but she's been an experiencer her whole life, like I have. Those two together,
not as good as me.
You and I are going to be here.
Nope, not as good as me.
I have it every day, every night.
It's a fact. Here's the recipe: Van Halen and pastrami sandwiches.
Got it. Oh, Eddie's laughing right now.
You have no idea. I'm telling you.
Eddie is like super.
There's none of this. Okay, let's
breathe in. What makes you happy? What makes you feel
exactly
lighthearted state of mind? That's what you do. Whatever it is. If you like to dance, that's why people who go to festivals have all of these experiences. Consciousness, awakening, because they're dancing, they're having fun, they're doing,
Honey attracts bees, man. Honey attracts bees.
Absolutely.
I was I love you. I was hosting a big CE5 thing, and I don't want to embarrass anybody that was there. Okay. All right. So, and again, your own thing, your own whatever, do your thing and enjoy it and love it. But sometimes I can be a little bit, there can be dickery going on in my sphere, right? So I got a ghetto blaster, right? I've got Van Halen 2 streaming with my iTunes on my iPhone, right? Okay. And I'm walking, and everybody's out there in their kumbaya circle. Bless, they're having such a good time, but they're all out there doing their thing with some atmospheric ET music playing. And somebody was speaking. And so anyway, and I'm walking out, man, I got a bag full of pastrami sandwiches. I got my Van Halen 2. And I can't say who came up to me. Pretty big name. Name. Comes up, Jimmy, turn that off. I go, what? We're starting the CE5. I go, so am I. This is my party. But no, Jimmy, you got to bring us. Oh man, for you. And I hit pause and I stopped it. I said, for you, okay, all right. And I tiptoed out there, and everybody's doing their thing. But later on that night, about a half hour later, Van Halen got turned on, and it's about. I don't want to be all woo woo. I don't want to sound like a 1972 conscious, awakened person that has a pyramid over my waterbed. I don't want to sound like, yeah. Oh, you did, didn't you? You did. Yeah.
I might.
Yeah. You might still. But I am speaking like that.
Yeah.
I am. I truly am.
Yeah.
And the good vibrations and a good vibe. That's who everybody wants to hang out with. They don't want to hang out with somebody that's not fun.
That. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my contention is, people are constantly asking me, well, how can I make contact like you do every day, man? That's just, and they're always in contact with you. I'm like, be in a good mood, do something to raise your spirits. And you know what? Sprinkle a little bit of service to others for a while, that'll make you feel good too, but it spreads that energy around. But
you still have a waterbed? You still have a waterbed?
No, but I have the frame for it, and we've got a purple mattress on it.
Whatever. You remember they used to be on every corner.
I know. The waterbed world.
Yeah, waterbed world. This is a waveless. Remember that? Yeah.
Wow. Not my experience, but they were cool. That's okay. It was.
There must be we could build a pyramid out of waterbed frames from the 70s.
We could build one that's big as Giza, probably.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. This was an ancient culture from 1990 that built this pyramid from the local resources that they had. Tell us more about them. Yeah, they were called the Pyramid Power People. Yeah, think about that. Really, they built this monument. It's 500 feet tall. There was a lot of waterbeds left over in 1990.
Well, think of the energy. Now, if we're talking quantum physics, we know that space, locations, or objects can be conditioned by a repetitive action in over and over and over again. So you can walk into Giza, for instance, having no knowledge of it and not really believing in anything. You're just a normal everyday Joe. You walk into the Pyramid of Giza and suddenly you feel different. Or you walk into.
Have you been to Giza? Have you been there?
I bucket list.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
You feel different when you walk into a place like that. Why is that? Because it was used for thousands of years by people who were doing something specific there. So if you Notre Dame Cathedral, or put any sort of sacred Stonehenge, you walk into a place, and even though it may not be your belief system, you feel something different. Okay, you do that because your energy and the energy of the people who are with you condition that space over time with a frequency, and it's held there. Okay.
When you go to usually, I'm going to say usually because I've had this experience. It's been repeated enough with me that I can say with a high amount of confidence that this is the case. When you least expect it, that's when it happens.
Oh yeah.
And so you'll walk into or walk around or walk through a sacred site, a temple complex, and you're just doing your thing. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've had that happen maybe, I was going to say a half a dozen, probably more like a dozen times over the years. And when it happens, it's usually pretty profound. But then you step back and you look around and you go, oh, that's why this place is here.
Exactly.
Because yes, repetitive over the year, for sure. Ceremonies, for sure. It's built up. The resonance is there. It's been recorded, for sure. Quartz and mica and granite and everything just soaking these energies. Absolutely. But the original builders of that site were the ones that went, oh, right here in the dirt. X marks the spot.
Yes,
This is the
maybe they had their own like cosmic dowsing rods. They're like, oh, this is it.
Absolutely.
This is it.
Have you heard of Amara Muru?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, the portal, right?
Yeah.
I've been there a few times now, and I'm going to say this is 2 years ago. 2 years ago, not last year. 2 years ago, I go and I'm with a shaman. He's amazing, by the way, and I go through the ceremony, the whole thing, right? Burning some crazy ancient incense and some tobacco and everything that they do, and sacred elements and stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the ceremony. And then I went, you get blessed and, the whole thing. In the portal, there's an indentation that you put your forehead into.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. All right. So I do all of that. I'm not going to get into it. That's personal, and I'm not going to talk about it. But after I'm done, and now I go down, I'm standing, and our group heads out that way, and I'm standing there by myself. This is early in the morning. It's like 7 a.m. Sun's right in front of me. And I'm just picking up the sun. I just want my last moment before I have to leave. Such a beautiful place. And all of a sudden, this electricity starts coming up my legs.
Wow.
And I can feel it. It's coming into my body. And and my hands are out. My eyes are closed. I'm facing the sun. And I was like, man, am I glowing? And I kind of open up my eyes and I look at my hands. And I'm like, wow. And I look this way and there's a lady standing with me, looking at her hands, the same as me.
Yeah.
And she goes, do you feel that? And I go, I can't tell you exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I want to respect your program. But I said, you mean that is real? What? And she, and then it just kind of went away.
Yeah.
And it lasted for about 2 minutes. It was nuts. When I tell that story, I realize what's coming out of my mouth, and I know what I sound like, but I just don't give a crap.
You sound perfectly sane to me. I've had the experience. I know what it's like. You had the direct experience. So now you are conditioned. Do you understand? Your space is conditioned, but you're walking around on the planet and you're using your voice and you're using your influence. And this is why you were chosen. You didn't choose, I don't think. You were chosen to go there and do that. You were imprinted, conditioned.
That's why the Contact Modalities XPO is going on.
It is.
May 2nd, 3rd,
I
and
know,
4th.
we need to circle back around. I've kept you so long. I could go on all night with you.
So
It's
much
so
fun.
awesome.
So much fun. But that is part of it, that I am able to go and host events like Contact Modalities and share my experiences and just get out there. And I want to talk to everybody. I love hearing everybody else's stories and experiences and getting their questions. It's just so much fun. So I'm just looking forward to it. I can't wait. We are going to have so much fun.
We are. It's going to be a blast. I'm so excited about it. And we're, there's just so much to do there. You're going to be hosting, but you're also going to be doing this one-on-one chat with Chris Bledsoe about a very important thing that happened to him. You're going to be hosting this big panel with all these wonderful thought leaders.
We've got the Skywatch.
Skywatch. Oh my God, it's going to be so crazy.
I'm telling you, Van Halen 2, side 1. And Van Halen 2, side 1, and pastrami sandwiches. Now, is the restaurant at the resort really that good?
I don't know. I've never been there, but I'm trusting now.
I hear rumors. I hear rumors. It's amazing.
It's really good. The place looks phenomenal, and it looks perfect to do Skywatch, by the way. It's right by a lake. There's like 248 acres of forest and trails and stuff. Do you know? I don't know if you know this. Maybe you do. You probably do. That place, that site that resort is on, was where they dug up those giant skeletons. Hundreds of burial mounds are on that property.
Yes, and so
in the early 1900s.
I grew up there, and I was born in Waukegan.
Right.
So yeah, I was born in Waukegan, and I was born at Great Lakes Naval Station, which is just south of where we're talking about, across the border. And so that entire area, the northern half of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, this area, including Minnesota, and of course Scott Walter has done all of his great research into this, is very, 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 very sacred, very special. Yeah, and the mound builders, I've been fascinated because I grew up in that area, and I've always been taught and learned about these mound sites that they're too big. And if you go, and what I mean by that, before I get out of here, that we are told that they were built by cultures that didn't have the wheel, by cultures that didn't have metallurgy, by cultures that didn't have, but they're building these ginormous earthworks and with astronomical significance and spirituality tied to it. Not only there, but look at like Chaco Canyon is another great example of that. Where these are very, very, very special sacred places. And so where Delavan is, and Delavan Lake, like I said, this is where I grew up, and I'm very excited. I know how special the area is. We've got the right people there all weekend long to have a good time with. So let's go. Let's knock it out of the park. It's going to be so much fun, and I just look forward to it.
Yeah. So everybody just, we'll put the stuff in the description and down here on the marquee. You can see how to get a ticket, but don't miss this one. This is going to be phenomenal. The biggest thing that's happened to the Midwest in decades, probably. And you're going to be our host. So thank you so much.
I look forward to it. I'll see everybody out there. Again, it's contactmodalitiesexpo.com. Oh, wait. Oh, we've got a ticker down here.
XPO. It's spelled XPO. Yep, right there on the marquee.
Yep, so, contactmodalitiesexpo.com, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's going to be great, and I'm heading back to the Midwest to hang out with my people. So there you go, Deb.
With you too. Thank you so much, my brother. I really appreciate it. You stayed on way longer, and I just love you for it. It's been wonderful.
We just got started. Thank you, Deb. We'll see you in a few months.
In Lakesh, man. Bye. Thanks.